What's up, everybody? It's Israel again with the Elevated Man, and I wanted to come and address something again that had just been, it weighs heavy on my heart. It's near and dear to me. It's something that I go through every day. It's something that I realize is going to be a part of my life for the rest of my life, more times over than just once. It's something that was also a part of my life, an experience that I grew up in itself, and it's for the parents out there, for the soon-to-be parents. It's 6 things that I really learned watching my son grow up and watching him grow over the years. Some of these things, they're pretty obvious. Some of them, maybe not so much. But the idea is that maybe I can point something out that somebody else hasn't seen before. Maybe I could reinforce that you are doing the right thing, or maybe I could encourage you to tell me if there's something else that you hear that I say that you think you do better or you have a better grasp on, because at the end of the day, as parents, we are paving the way for our children, and just what we do every day shapes everything, how they think, how they hope, how they dream. Everything we do is either nurture or we take away what their potential is. So this is 6 things that have really been near and dear to my heart, and I wanted to make sure that I get them out verbally, get them out easily accessible, because it's just, I think it's important, right? So the first thing that really crossed my mind was that praise your kids. Now, I'm not talking about like never giving them criticism. I'm talking about finding one thing that they do every single day, and before the day's over, letting them know exactly how well they did and how proud you are of them. I'm not saying like on a day where they have just absolutely destroyed the day, done nothing right, they've done nothing but get in trouble, and that's all they've done, to tell them they did a good job at getting trouble. I'm talking about, when that little thing that you didn't see, that you didn't have to ask them to do, the way they ate all their food, the way just little things to help them see that they are still doing good. And never let them forget that they are doing great, that they are good kids, and that they will continue doing great. It's just important to make sure that you're very intentional with how you praise your children, because I promise you the rest of the world is not going to do it for you. And you're either going to build and shape a great little human being, or you're going to build somebody who's insecure and doesn't know how to handle criticism, doesn't know how to handle praise. We can all think back to the athlete or to the scholar, or somebody who couldn't quite take it, didn't know how to deal with the praise or the criticism. So start young and start praising them as soon as you can. But do it constructively, and understand that there's I don't want to call it a strategy to raising children, but there is a strategy to making sure they are sound and they have the mental fortitude to withstand the world. And the next part, number 2, choose your words carefully. If you've ever caught yourself, like when your kids are super, super, super frustrating you, and you just you tell them to quit annoying you, or you say to your friend, dude, my kids are getting on my nerves or annoying the heck out of me, whatever it is, I promise you that sticks with them much longer than you ever anticipated. Your child will then start to wonder every time they need your attention, or if they do really need something, am I bugging my mom or dad, or am I being a problem? And they'll grow up never quite understanding that it's okay to come to an adult. It's okay to get something off their mind. It's okay to have a conversation with them about what's going on. Yes, we don't want them interrupting. Yes, we don't want them interfering in something that that we don't want them to hear. I understand that. But when the words that you choose to describe your children to other people when they're in earshot, or just to describe them in general, I promise you, the more careless you are with your words, the harder it's gonna be to build them up later on, because you're either building their self-esteem or you're destroying it. You are the single most important person in their lives, and if they feel like they can't come to you with problems, with emotions, with concerns, with ouchies and owies and questions, they will grow up never understanding that it's okay to ask questions, that it's okay to bring things to adults, that it's okay to to do things. And that's just that aspect of it. When you get onto your kids and you tell them like, dude, you're a bad kid. You're always bad at school. You're always doing this. You are reinforcing the fact that they will always be bad at school. I promise you. I spend so much time helping my son see that he's not a bad kid when he makes bad choices, that he's a good kid who just made poor choices. I see so often times when someone is bad, or if someone is not necessarily behaving correctly or whatever, that people will often revert to calling that person a crappy person or a bad person, or, like those types of things. But in reality, they're just a human who is making poor choices. Right. And we've all been there, and we don't want to be defined by the things we do wrong. We want to be defined by who we actually are. And the things that we do wrong are just situational things that we've got to that point. So be careful with how you talk to them, and be careful with how you talk about them to other people. And especially when they can hear you, because I promise they hear it. And you're there. They are your number one fan, I promise you. And you are either going to destroy them or build them up. The next thing that I want to talk about, number 3, is give them correction. So heartfelt, never emotional, honest correction. And I don't want to say we've all been there, but if you've ever been there and you've reacted out of emotion when it comes to your kids, they break your favorite whatever thing in the house, or they deliberately disobey you. They sneak out of the house. They get into food they weren't supposed to get in. They go somewhere they weren't supposed to. They don't call you when they get out of school. Those things, and you snap. Man, it almost takes the credit away. The credits, whatever you want to call it, takes the credit away from what they should expect out of being reprimanded or being corrected, because they will always fear, like you're as their parent, they will always fear, what if I do something wrong? Like, is my dad going to tear my hide up because I made a mistake? Is my mom going to disown me because I made a mistake? Or do you want them to understand, look, when you make poor decisions, there are consequences. And whether it be a spanking or grounding or something of that nature, they will always just think if they screw up, they're just going to get wailed on. Their parents are going to make them feel like they're just the scum of the earth because they made a bad mistake. Or there's levels to it, right? Obviously you don't want your kids doing super crazy things, but you always want to make sure that they know that you love them regardless, that there is that you love them whether or not they do the good or the bad. It doesn't matter, that you're going to love them through it. You're going to help them through it. And you're going to help them understand that, yes, there are consequences to every single thing that you do. Every single thing. There is not a thing that they can do in this world that doesn't require consequences, whether it be good or bad. There's nothing they can do to get away from it. So, the thing that I like to ask my little man, Z, I'm sure you guys have all seen him, is I'll ask him, do you want consequences or do you want to behave? 9 times out of 10, he's going to tell me I want to behave. There's been one occasion where he hit me with the consequences, Dad. And well, we got consequences. So, that one was pretty interesting, but you have to remember to stand firm in what you tell your children. If you're going to spank them or you're going to ground them or you're going to do whatever you say you're going to do, you better do it, because those little kids, they understand what it's like to manipulate. If you say, I'm going to spank you if you do this, and then they do it and you don't spank them, you're losing credibility. There's the word, credibility. You're losing credibility in your word. And I promise you, the second your kids smell blood, they will go after it. That's why kids do the whole well, Mom said, well, Dad said, and Dad may have said no, but they're going to go tell Mom, well, Mom said, Dad said to ask Mom. I'm sure we've all done it. We've all been that route. It's all been there. But to think back, so this summer, we had, myself and Jessica and Zion had a trip planned to Hurricane Harbor. We were going to go tear it up, right? My son was pumped. I was pumped. Well, my son started acting like a little fool. He started acting crazy. And it was probably about an hour or so of that where he was just kind of not behaving correctly. And so I said, look, dude, go hit a nap. You're not behaving correctly. You're not doing the right things right now. You're really pushing the limits. We've got a good day planned, so go hit a nap. I'll come get you in an hour. Boom, goes and takes a nap. I come back in. This dude is still sitting up in the bed, kind of being mouthy. And so I asked him, I said, hey, look, I said, I want you to know that I can't just take you to the water park after you've been acting like this. I can't. It's like not possible. So I need you to make a decision now. Do you want to go home or do you want to go to the water park? Dude said, I want to go home. Hardest decision I've made when it comes to something like this, because it wasn't just his plan or his fun day. It was going to be myself and Jessica's fun day. And we were going to go to a water park, have a lot of fun. And it was a beautiful day outside, sunny. It was warm. It was just perfect. But we went home and he cried the entire time asking me, can we please go back? Can we please go back? And I was teaching my son, your word holds value. And just like I expect him to understand my word holds value, I want him to understand his word holds value. And I promise you, the very next time this happened, we were going to do something fun. I said, dude, let me ask you something. Do you want to stay home or do you want to go? Seconds, like milliseconds. He was like, I want to go. I was like, then straighten up, And so it was him kind of understanding that, like, if he would have told me we were going home, I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that he understood we were going home. So don't be afraid to correct your kids, but like do it in a way that you rip the emotion out of it. Because when you leave the emotion in, you just raise emotional little human beings that learn to react off emotion, and it's not good. It's definitely not the way you want to be. I was super emotional growing up. I mean, I'm still working on it, right? But I was super emotional growing up, and I see the woes of that. I see the error in that way, and you want to make sure that you're of sound mind and you pull the emotion out when you can. So, number 4, encourage competition. So compete against them, right? Let them win, beat them, and put up a fight, right? So as you're going through the journey of competition, when you lose, when you let them win, or whatever you want to call it. I know some of you parents have pride out there. So when you let them win or lose or whatever, remember, they're watching you. They're watching to see how you lose. Do you make excuses? Do you take the loss, with dignity? Do you keep your pride intact? Or do you act, foolishly? Now, being that you're probably modeling this or like letting them win, be intentional about it. Because you want to let them know it's okay to lose. It's okay to experience loss, but to build off of it, right? And so, you never want to, and then on the flip side of that, when you win, remember the same thing. When you win, like a lot of parents I've seen it, like where parents will rub it in their kids' faces and make them feel like less than little winners, and it like where they kind of rub it in their face. But remember, don't ever like tell your kids they're a loser or they suck at something or they're terrible or whatever. Like, let them understand that at a young age, they're going to have to build their skill set. Now, some sports they're going to be better at. And I'm not saying pander to that sensitive notion that you can't be honest with your kids. If they're not good at a sport and you feel like they're better at something else, then tell them either, look, you're going to have to work extremely hard to get to the point where you can compete or be at a competitive level, or you can do the sport that you're really good at right now and we can hone those skills in and help you build, right? Remember, you're the parent. They're not. They're the kid. So remember that you're wanting to encourage the competition, but help do it, cultivate it in a healthy environment. And like, just make sure that the whole time that you're doing this entire process with competition, that you're fostering a healthy environment to help them understand that they are going to lose in life. There are things that are going to happen that they're going to lose at. They're going to lose sporting events. They're going to lose academic achievements. They're going to lose to other people. They're going to win. They're going to do great. They're going to do terrible. They're going to have all these things. And you have to make sure that as their parent, you are modeling every way that you think you want them to be, or the best way that's in their best interest, right? Because we don't have all the answers. We don't have all of them, even though I know we're all parents here and we have every answer because we were 16 and had all the answers. So now we're 30, 40, 50, and now we've got even more answers. But either way, so The next thing to move on beyond that is encourage critical thinking. So don't do everything for them all the time. Have I had my hands up here the whole time? I feel like that's a little weird. I feel like I've had my hands up here the whole time. I apologize. So encourage critical thinking. So have you ever seen the parent that just like does everything for their kids, like ties their shoes? You can tell they do it, change them. You can tell they just do everything. They make their sandwiches, cut the toast, cut the crust off my bread, mommy, type of deal. Like, that's, and they're like 7, 8, 9 years old. Like my dude Zion can make his own sandwiches. I can tell if he's hungry, he'll like, Dad, I'm hungry. I'm like, well, make a sandwich. And he'll go get the meat, the spread, the bread, the whole, put some chips on it, done deal. Right? Encourage them. And that's just a small level of critical thinking. But I mean, ask them why. If they go through a scenario at school, I always ask my son when he gets in a car with me, what's one thing that made you sad? What's one thing that made you happy? What's one thing that made you angry? What's one thing that made you like, and I go through and I ask him why. Why do you think it made you that way? Why do you think that caused you to feel sad or upset or mad or angry? Because I want him to understand that there's a thought process to everything. I want him to develop his little brain to fire and to understand that there are reasons behind the seasons and there are seasons behind the reasons, the whole thing. Like, understand what's going on in the world and understand that to be in touch with his process, with his thought process, and to understand and to not be afraid to dive into or to put yourself into someone else's shoes. So he said that this one kid was kind of picking on him or just kind of nagging at him, right? And so I said, well, how did that make you feel? And he said, well, I felt sad. I felt angry. I felt embarrassed. And so I asked him, why do you think you felt that way? And he said, well, I felt sad, because I wanted to be his friend, and he just didn't want to be my friend. He wanted to kind of pick on me and make fun of me. Then I said, okay. So I said, that's normal to feel that way. So I'm leading him into his thought process. And I said, well, and why did it make you upset or why did it make you mad? He said, because I didn't like to be picked on. It made me feel like I wanted to say something to him, but I couldn't. And then I said, okay, so why did it make you feel embarrassed? And he's telling me because it was in front of other people. So I help him at a young age start to understand that, and the conversation we have beyond that is that a lot of those things come from that embarrassment one, that one that we talked about at the end. And so I lead him into understanding that some people are just going to be like that. They just don't want to be your friend, even if you want to be their friend, but it's okay to continue to be nice to them. It's okay to feel upset or when they're mean to you, but you have to understand why there are some people that are just like that. And then to understand that feeling of embarrassment comes from a ego standpoint that is not really, it's important, but it's not it's not that important, right? So it's not the most important. And, yeah, man, it's crazy to go through those thought processes with them when you're trying to encourage critical thinking. But it's important to do, because if you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. Some other kid's going to do it for you, or some other parent's going to interfere and do it for you, or the teachers are going to do it for them. So you have to remember, you want to help them harness those skills, at an early age. And so number 6, which goes without saying, love them. So it might seem simple, but it's more critical and more complicated at times. It's more critical than ever, and it's more complicated at times. But never make your kids feel like they have to earn your love. The world is already cold and shallow enough. Don't make them feel like getting you to love them is just another task they can't get done, or another task that they have to work to do. They're your kids, man. Just love them. And if you make it difficult for them to love you, I promise you they will turn outwards and they will go love something else or love someone else. They will look forever to fill the void that they can't fill without your love. At a young age, when children don't have much spirituality or much reason to look to a faith, they look to you for that love. And if you don't provide it, they will turn to drugs, sex, other people, video games. Not saying video games or other people, I'm not saying those are bad, But there are some things that are. And when they start to dive into those things and become those, I don't know, just people that just can't anymore in the world, then you'll understand what I mean. I mean, when you see kids doing that, when you see a child that you can tell has been neglected or is not loved or is not getting loved at home, we've all seen it with parents who are never available for their kids. We all see what they turn to. It's not always the case, but generally speaking, if you make it hard for your kids to love you, they will go love something else. And if you're lucky enough to have kids figure it out on their own, that the outside is not where the love is, it's on the inside. If you're lucky enough to see them live long enough to do that, then consider yourself lucky and realize how close you got to missing out on some really important years in their life. So love them and don't make them feel like it's a task to love you. Just think about it. You work 12 hours, 10 hours, 8 hours, 6 hours, 4 hours. You work during the day. You're exhausted, you're frustrated, your boss is on your back, or you're just not having it, right? You're just fed up. Your kid don't know that. When you come home and that kid wants to just play with you and play catch and play with race cars and lay down on the ground, like, dude, it's the sweetest thing with my son. He just wants to literally lay on the ground and play with race cars, play with Hot Wheels. Like, you know, if I was to tell my son, dude, I'm too tired, I can't. I just can't. I'm too tired to love you. I'm too tired to engage in the act of loving you. I'm too tired to do what you want to do because I've done what I wanted to do all day. Just remember, you have to love them physically, mentally, emotionally. You have to connect with them. So, you know, and all the other stuff in between. So I hope this has been kind of like clear. I know it's a little bit of a ramble, but it's just things that I've always thought about and things that I've wanted to talk about when it comes to raising children or when it comes to raising my son in particular, and just the things that I've learned, right? I don't have all the answers, but I feel like, you know, raising my son has been able to see and watch him grow in his self-esteem and grow in his confidence, that I think it's important to be able to get these things out. And like I said, if you have something that on this list that I've talked about that is you feel like you have a better grasp on, or you feel like you have more information or more insight from me, reach out. Let me know, because I just want the best for my son, and I know you want the best for your children. So would love to hear about it. So like, subscribe to this, you know, let me know, give me a comment, shoot me a DM, a chat, whatever you want. Follow me on social media. So just to recap the 6 things that we talked about today. So praise your kids, right? So praise them, give them love, show them, tell them, make them feel like they do something good even when they don't do really much. So that's every day. Do it every day. Choose your words carefully, right? Describing your kids as annoying or describing your kids as bad kids is never the route to go. So just remember, they're little human beings that make poor choices, or they're little guys that, you know, aren't doing things the best way at the time, you know. Give them correction. Don't be afraid to, I'm old school, the staff, I'm not afraid to give a spanking out, you know, because it never hurt anybody. Because my theory was, if I didn't give him spankings or I didn't correct him, someone else would. And I'd rather me do it than a police officer or some dude on the street. Encourage competition. It's healthy, helps them grow. Men are supposed to be competitive. Women are supposed to be competitive. We all are, right? Encourage critical thinking. So make sure that you're not doing everything for them. You know, obviously infants are a little bit different, but as they grow into that toddler, you know, they start to kind of, you know, grow up, and let them do some stuff on their own and ask them about their day and ask them why they went that route, or why they went that route, or why they feel that way. And then love them. Right? So love them unconditionally and don't make them feel like it's a task to love you. So this is near and dear to my heart, and I hope you guys find some value in it. If you have any questions or you just want to find out more about this, just subscribe at the link, like it, share it, do whatever you want. I really don't care, but if this just hits one person's heart, then that's absolutely all that I need. You guys have a good one, and it's been great talking with you.